Hi folks, so today's video is going to be my review of the Kat Von D Pastelgoth palette. So if you guys want to see 5 different looks that I've done, makeup looks that I've done with this palette, there will be a playlist on my channel that you can go and watch them all if you're interested. I prefer using eyeshadows on the eyelid to see how they perform before I review them. I just find it's just easier than doing finger swatches, so that's kind of what I've been doing lately, especially with new products. I like to try to use all the colors in the palette all throughout the week, and then give you guys my final opinion at the end of the week. So moving on to the palette itself, this is a new spring release from Kat Von D. Definitely something that when I first saw the promo pictures of, I knew I had to buy. This definitely, packaging wise and everything about it, sort of caters to my inner 15-year-old. I definitely feel like if I would have known what Pastelgoth was when I was a teenager, that's definitely the aesthetic I would have driven towards, like for sure, if I knew that it existed, or if if Tumblr was a thing then, which it was not. MySpace was, and being a scene kid was, but we didn't quite have Pastelgoth. So moving on to the packaging, which is pretty much the selling point for me. I'm not gonna lie, I would have bought this palette if I never saw what the inside was. I would have bought it anyway. Some people might think it's tacky. I think it's fucking awesome and I love it. I just like rainbows, man, and like when I organize my stuff, I organize it by rainbow, and I just love like Kat Von D's whole aesthetic with this, and like the ombre, like pasteliness. I don't know, I like it, okay? So the outside packaging is basically identical to the packaging of the palette itself, with the exception of the back of the palette. The outside packaging has the colors, and this has just sort of the names and stuff. It does have a little bit of like raised texture and whatnot, and it is the standard sort of cardboard packaging that's on most of Kat Von D's palettes. You open it up, it does have the mirror and says Kat Von D right there. So then you open it up and you move on to your 8 shades. I like just folding the mirror back. That's just how I prefer to store things, but you can obviously leave that mirror up if you wanted to. One thing that I do appreciate for this is that she included the shade names down below, which I really like because I can easily like look at them whenever I'm trying to tell you guys, okay, I'm using a shade like this, or grab for a shade like this one. I just like that. I just think it's easier than like trying to figure out, oh, okay, what color am I using? So yeah, so that's just kind of what the packaging looks like. A definite win for me. It's super cute. This is going to be one that stays out on my vanity for a good while. It's definitely through the spring for sure. Alright, so let's talk about the shadows themselves. You open it up, you get a good range of colors. I like the way that this is presented to me visually. The only thing I wish is that this white was on the other side, so it'd be like white, yellow, but that's just me being like super nitpicky about like the way that I personally like to organize things. But I like that all these colors are in the same tone. Find kind of strange is when this palette was first released, people were sort of like, well, these aren't pastels, based on the promo pictures. And it really took me, honestly, getting it physically in my hands to realize that, like, yes, they are actually pastels. And then definitely when you swatch them, you realize that they are pastel colors. Could they be lighter? Could there be like a lighter blue? Maybe, yes. But the thing is with that is then you run the risk of the eyeshadows being barely noticeable at all. So for eyeshadows, typically when you add white to a color, it sort of shears out the intensity. That also means that it's more prone to being chalky. Because like, I mean, really, think about the last time that you used a light shade and it was super, super chalky. That's pretty typical with like those light pastel colors. The only other ones that I've had really good luck with have been Sugar Pill. Sugar Pill's lighter shades don't do that, and they actually adhere nicely to the skin. But typically for like lighter pastel shades, they end up running the risk of being really too chalky, or really not noticeable on the skin at all. So I find that these are a nice mix of having like sort of a rich pigment, but then not being too intense of like a bright eyeshadow. So like, to me, these are true pastels. I heard somewhere as well that she was inspired by pastels as in like the painting or art medium. I definitely see that in this too, because the colors are very similar as well. So take it either way you want. I personally think that these are definitely pastel colors. So in terms of tone of eyeshadows, I feel like it's sort of in the middle between being almost like white and not really showing up, and then being super bright. And that's exactly, I think, what works for this palette, is having sort of that middle ground between, an equal mix of color and white, without it running the risk of being too white and not having it show up on anyone's skin tone. A little bit about texture. These eyeshadows are all matte, so there's no shimmer or anything in them. And they're actually some of the best formulas for matte eyeshadows from Kat Von D that I've seen. It's nice to see that her formula continues to get better and better. Even comparing these shadows to the shade Light Eye that I used a couple weeks ago, these ones have practically no fallout when you dip your brush into them, which is amazing. No kick up, I mean. And then that means when you go and apply them on the eye, they really stick and adhere to the eye, and there's no fallout either when you go and blend them out, which is awesome. Another thing I really like is that the formula of these for the most part are consistent. The only one that I have a little bit of issues with, which I do sort of mention throughout the week, is this yellow shade. I found that Clementine, when you go and apply that on to the eye, it is actually like that color. It shows with that almost like white base. But the yellow is a little bit more sheer than all the rest of the shades, so that's the only one that I have a little bit of issue with. I wish that like I could get that color, that like lemon yellow bright color onto the lid. So when I go and apply it, it sort of applies a little bit more chalky than the other ones and a little bit more powdery, and it doesn't show up sort of that true color. That's the only one that I have issues with. All the rest of them are amazing. My personal favorites, definitely Clementine. I love this shade. This is one of the first ones that I've used, and I just think it's beautiful on like a lighter skin tone. I think it's stunning. I really like Dope. I don't have a shade quite like that. It's almost like an indigo purple, which is really cool. The blue is nice and bright and amazing, and Dagger is sort of like an army green gray, which I really like. Another thing too is that the promo pictures kind of show this as like a true gray, like a neutral gray, and it's really not. It's actually almost like a dark greeny gray, so just keep that in mind. So another thing that I do want to mention and that I can appreciate about this palette is that all these colors actually work really, really well together. Like this peach, for example, when mixed with this blue, almost makes a middle color of something along those lines. So if you were to make sort of like a rainbow gradient of those colors, it just works so well. And that's the way I like this. Like you can almost look at the first part of this and go, that's a makeup look right there. You know, if you do this, that's a makeup look. You know, that's a makeup look, and even go like that's a makeup look. So if you take a few of these colors, you can make a really cool gradient, nice smoked out eye, and it's really cool. So my pros for the eyeshadow is that I really do like the formula, and I like the way that they apply on the lid, and they're nice and smooth and pigmented. One thing though that I found a little bit of a con, but I guess it's sort of like a mental con, not really a negative about the eyeshadows, but more about me personally. Applying these eyeshadows thinking that they're gonna get darker than they are. I did mention that earlier in the week as well, but you have to keep in mind when you're using these pastel colors that the intensity of color that you're going to get is never going to be anything darker than what's in this pan. So I mean, you're going to get that color on the lid and just that. So like when I first used these, I was like packing this on, packing this on, packing this on. And then I sort of had to stop and be like, okay, well, it's not going to get any darker than that. You know, I personally am so used to eyeshadows where if you apply them lightly, it's a light shade, but then you apply them a little bit heavier, they're a darker shade. These aren't the case. Like they apply that color and they sort of just stay that color. You can build them up to be like maximum that's in the pan. So one thing that is a con for me about these is that these are definitely shadows that you will have to use with an eyeshadow base. I wore this palette for a week even on the days that I wasn't filming, and one day I sort of like messed up my eyeshadow primer and found that when you apply these eyeshadows and they sort of stick to like an oilier part of your eyelid, they actually turn a little bit darker. Because that pigment is then like sort of reacting to the oil like on your eyelid, it gets a little bit darker and then it makes it impossible to blend out. So I found that a little weird, so just keep that in mind. It could be a con if you're somebody who doesn't like using eyeshadow primer. I definitely feel like you need to use that and have like a smooth oil-free base in order to get the maximum amount of payoff and like performance out of these. So it's definitely going to be an eyeshadow that you need to use a base with. So that's definitely a con for me. So basically this palette now retails for $51 Canadian on Sephora.com, and so that equals out to about $6.04 per eyeshadow, which isn't too bad when you think about it. Really, except for that yellow, all the rest of them are exactly the color that you get in the pan. Did I think that they needed a white in here? Not really. Do I use it this week? Yes. Would have been nice to see maybe another color other than that white in there, but it makes sense for this palette. Okay, so next I'm going to move on to who I think this palette might be good for. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I don't know how well that these shades might work on darker skin tones, and I hate that. That's something that really upsets me about makeup brands in general. If like one product is designed more for lighter skin tones than for darker skin tones, or if it's sort of like meant for people right in the middle and it doesn't work on deeper or lighter. This obviously is going to work well on lighter skin tones, but I'm really curious, and I haven't seen a whole lot of people with darker skin tones use this, so it really makes me wonder if the shadows are going to appear more pigmented. I just feel like this wasn't really marketed towards deeper skin tones, and I just don't feel comfortable with that. So take that for what you will, but it's just I really wish companies were more inclusive for like a variety of skin tones. Come on, like it's 2017, guys. Like you guys have people who use your brand from all different skin tones. So that's something to just keep in mind, because it was definitely something that I thought when I first started swatching it on the eye and stuff. I thought, I wonder how this is going to look on medium to dark skin tones. So anyway, just keep that in mind. So people who might enjoy this palette are obviously people who like color, who don't have similar colors like this in their collection. Personally for me, I don't have a lot of colors in this, so this is the reason why I liked it and I'm keeping it. Who want really good performing pastel shades, minus that yellow, but all the other shades in here are really, really cool, and some of them are definitely very interesting. I really liked like Dope. I've never seen a color quite like that one, and it's super cool. Just having that tone be slightly different than other shades that I own makes it unique. Definitely check it out if you're somebody who is into pastel shades and that's going to sort of fill a void in your makeup collection. I don't necessarily think that everyone is going to need this palette. It is good, but you really got to ask yourself if you're going to use it. If you know straight up that you use more like browns and more deeper tones, then maybe this isn't for you. That's actually something that I try to mention when I do these videos, is that yes, I can use a palette for a week and the looks are amazing, but if it's something that you're not going to use, don't buy it. Don't waste your money. There's, you know, other things that your money can go towards that will bring you more joy than getting a palette and having it sit and just collect dust. So yeah, hopefully I was able to provide you with some information about this palette when it comes to purchasing it and give you guys ideas and things to think about. As always, save your money unless it's something that you feel you really need. That's going to be my main point of these videos, really, is to hopefully save you guys some money in the long run. As you're curious, next week I'm going to do the Wet n Wild Comfort Zone palette. This was like $4, and I figured there's 8 shades in it, there's 8 shades in this. Why not do a full week using this and seeing what kind of looks I can pull out of it? We're going to see kind of what sort of eyeshadows I might need to bring in, or what products I need to bring in order to make those different looks. But I think it's going to be worth it because this is pretty much readily available at most drugstores. I recently checked and mine had one for like $5 or something like that, so that's Canadian too. So I feel like this is going to be something that if you guys like the looks, you can easily grab and won't feel bad about spending like $50 or, you know, $100 on a Visart something, you know. So this might just be a cheap alternative for some hopefully good makeup looks. Do leave me any comments down below. Are you interested in this palette? Is it on your wish list? Tell me why or why not that you might not be purchasing it. I'd love to see that down below and just sort of open up a discussion about this particular makeup product. So I hope everyone is doing good, and until my next video, I will talk to all you soon. Bye.